Well, I mean, there's a lot of controversy about this. I mean, even in the corporate place, in the over 29 population, corporations are having a problem where people are next to each other in a cubicle, just like your kids in the back of the car, and they're texting and emailing instead of sliding their chair back and saying, "Hey, Max, did you know?" So there's an interesting thing going on here, and they're concerned about that because they find that there's a variance in communication when we physically see each other.
Absolutely.
And you see that body language, and it's a different reflection in the flesh than it is off a monitor. I don't know. Any thoughts on your part?
I definitely agree that that's ridiculous having to email if you're right next to each other. But I don't think that's necessarily the case, because I know me personally, when I'm using Facebook, it's to, and also to relate to oppose what Mark Bauerlein is saying about social networking, is when I am on Facebook and communicating with people, it's often about books or school or facts, and we're not just talking about nothing. So I don't think it's a problem really that the networking exists. I do think that the overuse of it is potentially an issue, but I don't think it's inherently a problem.
Do you feel that you represent a majority of the youth with what you just said?
Well, actually, I would probably not. I would like to say yes, but yeah, I probably don't.
There's a maturation curve, I think, and you two may be at the high end of the curve, okay? But I find fault with Bauerlein's sort of hammering the fact that technology detracts from democracy. So I went back to John Dewey. And in 1966, in Democracy in Education, of course, in 1966, we didn't have laptops. We didn't have PCs, really, unless the military had them. But Dewey says, the extension in space of the number of individuals who participate in an interest so that each has to refer his own action to that of others, ellipsis, is equivalent to the breaking down of those barriers of class, race, and national territory which kept men from perceiving the full import of their activities. So one benefit of technology is that the world becomes smaller, that people are communicating, and that I see as a teacher among high school age students and college age students that many of the prejudices that beset my generation don't exist any longer. There's more openness, and I think we can attribute that to texting and technology in part.
Well, that's certainly a positive as far as a cultural change.
Yeah.
Let's go to our fifth question. Does Bauerlein's use of statistics strengthen his argument or have a different effect on your opinion? Well, who would like to challenge that?
Go, Max.
Okay. What I would say is that he relies very heavily on statistics. You know, every other sentence is just a statistic. However, I'll go back to what Credit Miss O'Rourke here told me in statistics class. Correlation does not necessarily lead to causation. And he looks at all these statistics saying, "Ooh, well, you know, so many more kids today can't name the Supreme Court justices. So many more kids today are using Facebook. How can I make those fit and come up with this thesis?" And I don't think it necessarily holds water.
I'm going to guess you're in agreement?
Yeah, definitely. When I was thinking about this question, I was just remembering how I was towards the beginning of the book, and I was just so, I want to say just irritated, because there was like a chart instead of words, which is kind of the opposite of what he's trying to say. And I had a real problem with how he was almost obsessing over the statistics rather than talking about his points and proving his points using more words. And yeah, I like what Max said about statistics class. You can't necessarily make the connections, and the reader obviously can't go check on every statistic that he's talking about. So we just have to take what he's saying and accept it as fact. When I noticed a particular example of one of his statistics where he was like sneakily twisting it so it sounded like a worse statement than it was, and I thought that was kind of an issue, and I realized that I recognized that because I take a statistics class, and I feel like the fact that I was noticing that kind of negates the dumbest generation claim.
Well, what if I just be a little bit of an antagonist here? And we say, can we just say he's trying to write to an audience in a culture that is becoming totally numbers-oriented, totally statistic-oriented, totally data-oriented? And so as an author, is he just writing in that style because that's something much of the audience looks for?
Can I field this as an author?
Sure.
I found fault with Bauerlein's often circular reasoning, which affirms what you're saying. I found him making a statement, I said this, here's statistics that seem to validate what I said, therefore it is true. And there were generalities and overstatements quite frequently. And on page 30, there's mention that today's teenagers and 20-year-olds perform no worse than yesterday's youth on some measures. What measures? After you've given me all these statistics. So that's my problem.
I think, he definitely relied very heavily on his statistics, and to his credit, he did his homework and he tried to support his argument with it. I just kind of caution just kind of a blind acceptance of the statistics that he used. He referred a lot on comparing kids in the U.S. versus kids and anyone who does that, comparing kids in the U.S. versus kids in other countries. I think it's a dangerous thing. I think you look at the culture of testing in this country, and it's a dangerous thing. And you think of not just the culture of testing, but the culture of America. Go back 10 or 12 years ago when the CAP test was in its infancy in Connecticut. How were schools around the state doing? Not so well, because it didn't mean anything to them. And the CAP, it wasn't until the No Child Left Behind Act and the state started saying, well, listen, we're going to link this to graduation, and then all of a sudden you saw a huge surge. Were were the kids smarter later for taking it? No, but the kids in the beginning, I don't think saw that there was a stake in taking it. Had a similar problem with comparisons using the NAEP test. The NAEP test is great. We had a bunch of seniors last year who took the NAEP test for us. But what is there? Listen, if I take the ACT or I take the SAT or the SAT2s, I know what my benefit is as a kid. It's going to get me into college. What's the NAEP test going to get me into? And what's my frame of mind going into that test? I caution that. And then I also wonder, who's taking these tests in other countries?
Any class comment anyone would like to share before we close out our show? Any thoughts? Well, with those final comments, we will close our discussion. On behalf of our panelists, Mr. Kobza, Miss Caroline, Max, Miss Finero, I want to express our thanks to all of you for joining us. And we hope you found the discussion of this information, this controversial book, to have been informative and interesting. Perhaps the ideas we have shared have stimulated thoughts and reactions that will find you in a discussion with friends and family. We hope you will join us in our future broadcasts of the Massac Report. Until then, we wish you well.